Hi there everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Alice Takeover. Yeah, Takeover isn't actually my last name, but it's just for fun. Today I'm going to be shedding some light on what I believe my own creativity to be, how my creativity has formulated itself over time, given life circumstances, outside opinions, and so forth. If you don't already know who I am, I'm a traveling freelance model that's been traveling all over the world for my work for the last decade or so, and now I decided to go ahead and make a YouTube channel to talk about my experiences as a traveling freelance model and to help educate people about my industry and where I want it to kind of grow into. Today I wanted to touch on a personal topic. I don't have a script or anything that I'm reading off of. I'm just kind of taking it off the top because this is my own personal experience. I used to think I wasn't a creative person. I used to think I was more of an academic. I used to think that I was destined to even be a doctor. And don't get me wrong, I would have loved to have been a doctor. I would have been a veterinarian if it had financially lined up for me to go that way and if it made sense. So basically we could take this from the top, back from when I was even a little kid. I first started figuring out that I was an entrepreneur when I was about 6. That's where I helped my parents raise some puppies, and they paid me like all of this money. It was crazy. I think it was like $300 to a 6-year-old for helping raise puppies over the last couple of weeks, however long it took to raise them, and then, you know, sell them to their homes and stuff. And that was a lot of Barbie dolls that I bought with that money. So I quickly learned the value of $1, which I think my parents wanted to instill in me with that little project with raising puppies and paying me for it. And so fast tracking forward, I ended up at 9 years old, I got a hamster because my mom thought it would be cute. I had all kinds of pets because I was an only child and my parents felt bad that I might be lonely, so I had everything from parrots to fish to horses to dogs, cats, you name it. And so it was about time I got a hamster. So when I was 9, I got a hamster. But it was a girl hamster, and my mom wanted a boy hamster, so we still went and got a boy hamster. And of course she told me, don't put them together, don't do it. Of course, what do? I put them together. I took joy in the creation of life, you know, seeing animals create new animals was just very interesting to me. I ended up later on in college studying more about genetics. So seeing how the genetics of hamsters works was really interesting for me. I took it really seriously. I documented down every hamster's color, you know, how many hamsters were in a litter, the genders of them, like I recorded all this stuff, you know. So I did that for several years. I ended up working for the local pet shop, and I just was her supplier for that. Instead of buying these mill-bred hamsters that were all sickly and mean and everything else, and they weren't that pretty, you know, mine were pretty and they were cute and they were nice, they were hand-tamed and all that stuff. She thought it was cute, so she paid me a little bit more than the mill. The mill was making like $3.36 per, and I was making $4 per because she liked mine better. And there was a higher guarantee too that mine were gonna survive versus like the mills would end up, you know, getting sick potentially and dying along the way. So she liked that mine lived 100% of the time. Anyway, I took a lot of pride in my hamsters when I was little. The only reason I stopped was because of the stress of school. It was more or less the kids picking on me because they were like, oh, you watch your hamsters do it. And I was like, aw, that killed it for me. I didn't ever think of it like that. I just thought, oh, like I get to like make genetics work. It was cool for me at the time, and I took a lot of really awesome records on it. It just was really a cool experience. I was making like $1,000 a year. It was awesome from like the time I was 9 to the time I was 12. You couldn't beat that as a kid. So you're probably wondering how this all wraps together into my creativity. Well, I'll get to that. We're gonna go skip to high school now. In high school, I had the art classes just like everybody else. I went to a pretty nice high school. I went to a pretty ghetto elementary school, and my parents ended up moving me so it would save my personality because I ended up turning out to be quite bossy. It was just like survival of the fittest in the ghetto school. So my parents ended up moving me from the ghetto school, and I ended up moving up like to this nicer school. So for my high school, it was like really well funded, and there was a lot of academic and extracurricular activities to do. I chose not to partake in the extracurriculars, and I just worked on academics because I was focused on college, which was not an option for me. My parents were very adamant that I needed to go to college. It was very important for everybody in my family to go to college. It's like no one ever dropped out of high school, college, I wouldn't say my family was strict, like in a way that was unbelievable or anything, but like, you know, that's kind of like why I don't have tattoos, and I just got piercings when I was 24. So like 2 years ago now I got piercings, because nobody in my family has them. I'm like the first in my family to get my ears pierced, and I did it more for my job. I actually don't really like them that much. I just got it done to kind of, you know, be more womanly and to do some commercial gigs where I need to wear earrings. But anyway, back to high school. So all the extracurricular activities and all of the artistic activities were either interfering with the academic work, like they were in the middle of the day where I'd have to skip class in order to go do like singing classes or, you know, what have not. And then the art classes, you know, I never did like, and I get it, you know, if you work as an artist, you have deadlines you have to make for your clients, but I just hated that. I hated that as a student, I had to make a certain art project by criteria and deliver it. I just hated that. So all throughout, you know, being a kid, my parents are like, you have to go to college and you have to get good grades. And same thing with school. They were like, oh, you know, you have to keep your GP at a certain level and so forth. So I was often congratulated on being more mature for my age. I was congratulated on like, oh wow, you're like 10 years old. You act like you're 16. And like when I was in high school there, I was always said like, oh, wow, you act like an adult, you know, you act like a grown-up. I'm like, oh, okay. And I still get that to this day. Even when I was 19, people were like, are you 26? And I really hope that trend doesn't keep going. I feel like I'm 26, I look 26, I'm happy with that. So anyway, on with the story. I thought that I was not an artistic type of person because I was always shoved into academics. It was always academic everything. And that's fine. I'm very smart now because I studied academics, but I went to study that. But so as I went into college, I ended up getting more in touch with my modeling roots. In my first semester, I ended up modeling for some of the fashion students there who were making their designs, and I did a little bit of runway for them. And yeah, when I was a kid, I got scouted out by a couple of corporations to be able to model for some projects for them, but my parents really were dead set on me becoming more academic. They didn't want me to get into more of these entertainment routes. So it's kind of funny, I became like an entertainer of sorts now. It's like, I've always been introverted, so it's really hard for me to do. But I always did envision myself being an ambassador of some sort. I thought that I would be an ambassador for the environment and for animal welfare and just for environmental preservation too. But I ended up becoming a model, which everyone thought was crazy. They were like, oh, that's not sustainable. Why on earth would you go into that? By the time you're in your 20s, you're gonna be washed up, you know? So when I ended up modeling full-time, that just shocked everyone because everybody in my life was pushing me into heavy academics. They were like, you should become a veterinarian and so forth. But 2 reasons I didn't become a veterinarian is it did not pay enough. Just did not pay enough to justify. Even if I were to go and either work emergency nights, it's like, okay, well, what kind of quality of life am I going to have if I go and work emergency nights? Kudos to the people who do it. It's great. I mean, the emergency clinic from where I'm from actually just shut down recently. And it's really sad because we needed that. Now anybody who's in that area has to go 2 hours one way or another to get to an emergency clinic if their dog eats chocolate or their cat gets ran over by a car, or, you know, things that you need an emergency vet for. So I feel a little bit bad, but that's the thing. In the industry, I felt like I had no control over the amount of income that I could make, and you gotta think for yourself a little bit. You know, veterinarians, anybody in the medical field is a very selfless person. Those people are wearing their hearts on their sleeves all the time, and, you know, kudos to them. I just became a little bit more selfish than that. I ended up going and doing my own thing and making enough money for me to my own self to be comfortable, thank goodness. I am happy I went into this career because the second reason that I didn't end up becoming a full-blown veterinarian is that every veterinarian told me not to do it. So my own veterinarian that I used for my animals said absolutely not. Everybody in school, you know, my professors who were veterinarians said absolutely not, you know, stay a vet tech. And then everybody I went and worked for in practice was like, don't become a veterinarian. So even if they specialized, I worked alongside specialized veterinarians in chiropractic, acupuncture, and even Chinese medicine. That wasn't solely who I worked with. I also worked at GP and emergency, and I even worked at the zoo for a minute. That was pretty fun. I did an internship at the zoo, but I worked professionally alongside those types, and they still didn't get paid more even though they specialized in something specific. So as I went through college and I saw that I became really good at modeling and the money was there, and then for veterinary, it just didn't make sense anymore. Like the stress, it's just so taxing working as a veterinary technician and as a veterinarian, just in the veterinary field in general, and you just don't get paid enough to justify. So I ended up moving from the veterinary field into modeling full-time. People were like, you're out of your mind. So I used to think that I wasn't creative. I ended up getting more into modeling initially for the money. I thought, oh my god, this is such easy money. I could go and not have to worry about anything. I could just make endless streams of income for as much as I work for. I can work off commission, which I really liked. I never ever liked salary. I thought salary sucked because it's like, what drives you every day to keep working a salary job? What makes you, unless you get tips, you know, in veterinary you don't get tips. Nobody would give you tips for that. You might be lucky to get a cookie once in a while, like a donut or something, like for somebody that's nice that brings it in, but in general, you don't get any perks, you know? So I really liked when I got tips, like when I worked in the ice cream shop in high school, I used to get tips. I'd sell ice cream for like $2 per, and then I get like $20 tips because I'd be like, oh, I'm new, and here's this new ice cream we have. I'd be all cute and stuff, and they would be like, oh, here's $20, pat on the head, hope you do well in life. But yeah, basically, I didn't think that I was a creative person initially in my life, and only recently did I ever start thinking, wow, I have some creative attributes in my personality, because I was always told to just go and be academic. I was always told, like, you have to go get good grades and stuff, and that's fine. It really is. I'm a very smart person because of it, and I feel like I can certainly articulate very well. Here I am talking about articulation. The reason I can articulate well is because I lived in the ghetto when I was in elementary school, and I went to a ghetto school, and it didn't start out that way. It was a grade A school when my parents first moved to the community, but then it turned into the ghetto. So by the time I ended up in about 4th grade, it was like super low class, like F-rated school. It's terrible. And it's sad. I really liked that school, and then it turned out to be really trashy. But initially, when I was growing up, the FCAT in Florida was a big deal, and the teachers were under a lot of pressure to get the students ready for the FCAT. It's almost like an SAT for elementary kids. It's a very difficult test. So yeah, they just drilled English into our heads. So like English. I remember, you know, in kindergarten I was writing a single sentence, and then by the end of kindergarten I wrote 4 sentences to create a paragraph. And then by the time I ended up in 1st grade, I was making a set of like an intro, middle, and ending. And like I would start out in 1st grade doing basic 3 paragraph, and it turned into 5 paragraph or 6 paragraph. And then by the time we were in 2nd grade, we were writing short, mostly life circumstances. I don't remember what the topics all were. I guess I could look up my old records on what I used to write when I was a little kid. My parents kept all that stuff, you know. But yeah, I always thought that I was more literary and I was more academic because I know English. I know English really well. It was drilled into me when I was young, and unfortunately math wasn't so much. I guess I don't use math much in my real life anyway, so if I were to redo my education all over again, I guess I would have it the same way. If I was an adult that was looking at me when I was young, when I was like 5, the advice that I would give myself to teach me at that age to become the best version of myself that I could be as an adult is that I did have creative attributes, so I should have sculpted into that more instead of being so academic. I never made time for creative outlets, so like I'm a really good painter, but I just never fostered all of that. So I can paint at like I don't know, like a high school level, but like I never fostered it after high school, so I never ended up getting super good at it. And I guess I could jump back into it as an adult, and maybe when I have even more time on my hands after getting my message out into the world, I'll go back into that. The only other thing I would have done for me as a kid, which is hard to pinpoint because a lot of these people who go into the school systems and they become a part of that, I don't want to degrade them by any means. We need people like this, but they say that there's like wolves and sheep, you know? And so there's people who work and they're employed and that's their life. And then there's entrepreneurs, and they're the ones that come up with businesses and they come up with solutions to problems, and they're the ones that push out products. And I'm in that category. And unfortunately, I didn't know any entrepreneurs growing up. I just was around employed people. So I learned how to become an employed person. And I wish, instead of being negatively told that I'm a bossy person, like I would just be on the playground and I would tell little Susie or whatever, I'd be like, hey, don't do that, do this, or, you know, like I was just bossy. I would just be very demanding towards other kids, and maybe call it like only child syndrome, I guess. But I never just got what I wanted. I just probably didn't have, even though my parents went and socialized me, I probably didn't have the same socialization skills as if I had a brother or sister to kind of put me in my place. My world was all about me. And as an adult, it's kind of manifested into that as well. Even though I've learned a little bit of humility and just being aware of other people's feelings around me, it is essential for living a great life, I think, is to just be socially aware of how other people feel and to be empathetic towards them. And I am empathetic. I'm not like like a sociopath or something. But I think just only children in general, they learn like kind of like the whole world revolves around them type of thing. Because my parents always paid attention to me, which is a great thing. They never ignored me, you know, when I had something to say, even though generally what 5-year-olds have to say is not very important, it was important to me. And my parents always made the effort to listen to me, which I thought was, you know, as an adult now, I'm like, oh, that was really nice that they, you know, thought of me so nicely. And now I have a lot of confidence as an adult. If you don't have a lot of confidence going into your adulthood, and that's something you have to work on, especially if you go into modeling. You have to have a lot of confidence for all the negativity that comes your way. You have to be able to ping it off, you know? I'm sure somebody will even have something negative to say about this video, because I'm putting a lot out there, you know? This is raw, this is my life, I don't have this on a script right now. In order to not make this video too long, I'll make a book in the future about my life, but basically I did not think that I was a creative person because the society and community that I was living in made me feel like I needed to be smart, and I didn't need to rely on creativity for success in my life. But that's the thing. I didn't know any entrepreneurs when I was growing up, so I just did with the best I had, and I became more academic. So I'm educated, but I wish that I had known too, even several years ago when I started out modeling full time, that I had creative attributes, or otherwise I wouldn't have been doing everyone else's photo shoots, which has burned me out, quite frankly. In recent years, I got really burned out, and I was like, dang, I've been working for everyone else doing their projects, which is fine, but I should have sprinkled in more projects of photo shoots that I thought were interesting, or things that creatively inspired me to continue moving forward and creating at my very best self. So moving forward in my life, I plan on being very creative. I plan on making lots of fun YouTube videos of my modeling that I go and I end up being the creative director for. It's really fun being a creative director these days, and I really found out that I have a knack for it once I souped up my home venue for Muses in Wonderland, which is the model photography events that I run. And I'll link the website to my events down here. I ended up becoming a full-blown event coordinator, and I didn't realize that it was gonna run that way, but like, it's been rockin'. I love the events. I love the feedback I get from them. The models love it, the photographers love it, the brands who have their products there, they love it. So, I mean, check out my events too. But yeah, I have initially found out that I'm a really creative person through becoming a creative director for the staging that I would have for my events. I would conduct this whole, like, here's a set over here, here's a set over here. Like, I would put like a bathtub on the lawn, and I would put like a chair or a table and like make it all pretty or whatever, you know? I'd just like do fun stuff at my venue, and it turned out really nice. And other people enjoyed it as well. They enjoyed creating with the things that I set up for them. And I provided wardrobe for the models and all this stuff. So really in the last like 2 or 3 years, I realized that I'm a creative person. I realized that deep down I can make beautiful things, and other people can find joy in that. And so for the sake of time, that's all I have to say for today. But if you did like this video, feel free to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to see more about the model photography industry and maybe more about me. And don't forget to leave me a comment down below of what you thought was interesting from this video. I know that it was quite a hefty video, a lot to unpack, but that's what happens when you don't have a script. I'm kind of a rambler ever since I've been doing interviews for companies and brands and that sort of thing. I've found that I even had to be flown out for an interview one time that I was there for the interview, flew home, and they were like, this interview sucks, we gotta fly you back in and we gotta like redo all that. So I used to be terrible as a speaker in front of the camera, so I'm pretty happy with the way that I've been able to figure out how to talk efficiently. But see here, like, I'm rambling. I've always been a rambler, and that's always been such a fluke in my interviews as I like try to over-explain what I'm trying to get out into the world. So with that said, thanks for tuning into this video. If, again, you're a model and you want to know more about my career, check out where I teach all the ins and outs about this career and how you can grow and scale your modeling business. So thanks again for tuning into this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!